Another major injury for Boston College's defense has the Eagles in major trouble.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get yourself started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. All right, Boston College, we have three things we really need to talk to you about today, and that is a major injury to the defense suffered against Virginia Tech. We'll get into who that is and what the latest details are on that and what that means for BC. We're going to look up Tommy Castellanos' fumbling issues. Can you chill on that a little bit? We'll talk about why that's going to be crucial for any success. And finally, some recruiting news you're going to want to make sure you know about that's going to impact this upcoming weekend. We'll get into all of that on today's show and much more. Now, if you watch the Virginia Tech game, it was bad, right? You know, the first quarter, they had some moments on offense. The defense was bad. Well, the defense could be getting worse because there's another major injury. I think it was in the second or third quarter on that fumble when they hit Chiron drones for a fumble. Cam Arnold knocked it out and it went into the hands of another BC to Max Tucker. And it was a big turnover. But if you remember, Cam Arnold went into the medical tent and we never saw him again. Well, Trevor Haas and Kevin Stone are both reporting on Monday that Cam Arnold was not practicing today and that he had his arm in a sling. Now, I'm not going to speculate what that means. It could mean anything. I mean, I don't think it's a break. I mean, if it's a break, you would have been in a cast. It's not anything, it's got to be something with his arm. It could be anything at this point. But the fact that he's not practicing could mean that he's going to miss this upcoming game. And if that's the case too, I mean, who knows? This could be an injury that takes a couple weeks. It could be an injury that knocks him out for the rest of the year. Fortunately, Bill O'Brien was not available to for the media today, so we don't have any updates on Cam Arnold. Whatever the case is, if you're in a sling, and your game is on Friday, I'm going to say that the odds are you're not playing. So what does that mean for BC? It means Owen McGowan's chance to step up. And I don't want to rag on him because he's had moments. He's been very good at practice. When I saw him during the summer, he had some, I think he had one practice where he had like 3 interceptions. But I'm a little worried about this because you're playing a very athletic Louisville team, a team that, scored 56 points against you last year. I know the team has changed. Jack Plummer's not there anymore. But when you don't have Cam Arnold and you have to replace him with Owen McGowan, you will have more things that you have to worry about because his athleticism is limited. He's not the most athletic linebacker BC has. And unfortunately, the linebacker position that Cam played is like the field general out there. He's the guy that, is getting a lot of the calls in on his headset to talk to the defense about what they have to do. He needs to be the general out there. So you can't just like change it to like Sione Hala or Bam Crouch or any of those guys because that's not what they're trained to do. It's going to have to be McGowan. And when we saw McGowan last, he got torched. There was a couple plays there where he had some struggles. I think back to Bajal Tutin catching that touchdown before the end of the first half. And McGowan was, he couldn't keep up with him. And what worries me is that Louisville has some guys on that team. I look at like Isaiah Brown, their freshman running back, that are good. And if he has to cover that guy in the flat, that's going to be a major challenge for him. So I don't like to make excuses. You play with what you got. Football is about injuries. It happens to every team. I mean, look at Louisville. I think it was their starting tight end. Was just announced gone for the season. It happens to everybody. So excuses aren't an issue. Injuries are not an excuse at this point. But now you're down potentially 2 of your top defenders. Amari Jackson, we know, is gone. He's not coming back. I think they said it was an ACL injury. He's gone. You now have Cam Arnold potentially gone. That's two big injuries for you. And they're changing things all over the place on this defense, too. Remember, you looked at the defense last week. You went into the game with Pete Thamel's tweet that Ashton McShane, the true freshman, was going to be the starter at cornerback to cover Amari Jackson's spot. I think he played 19 snaps before they yanked him and put Braquise Brown in, which honestly, I'm kind of okay with that because Braquise Brown is a grad student. Ashton McShane's a freshman. I'd rather have a more experienced backer back there. So that I think is okay. You also saw that they ganked Neto Ekpala. Neto Ekpala was not playing starter snaps yet on Thursday last week. Quintavious Hutchins was. So they're changing some things around on this defense because they got to get some things going. The pressure and the ability to get at the quarterback has not been there at any level other than Donovan Azaraku. Donovan Azaraku has been the one shining moment of this defensive line. The other three, in terms of pass rush, have been complete non-factors. It just hasn't happened. There's nobody getting any pressure on the quarterback. And I don't know how they're going to switch that. But you get that change. You go back to the secondary, you're going to be starting Max Tucker. You're going to be playing Braquise Brown. You look at what they did at the slot, we talked about with Mitch yesterday. Kari Johnson got benched after 2 missed tackles and was replaced by Cam Martinez, who opened some eyes. I got to say, he looked as good as I've seen him. Obviously, he had a humongous game. So the defense is changing. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if they had to figure some new things out and change a few other things because they didn't play all that well. And I didn't play all that well. They stunk against the run against Virginia Tech. You can't really grade them on the pass because Virginia Tech didn't have to pass the ball. They passed it 18 times. Otherwise, they just ran the ball because BC couldn't stop them. And I'm worried that this Cardinals game is going to be the exact same thing because you have a running back that is as good as Bashal Tutin, possibly faster. And that could be a big issue. That could be a big issue for this defense. And so losing a guy like Cam Arnold, who knows what he's doing out there, he's been a starter for 4 years. That's a big, big loss. That's a big loss for BC. So hopefully on Tuesday, we'll hear from Bill O'Brien if he has any updates of what's going on. But I'm going to tell you, if he's in a sling, that's not good. Now, in a moment, I want to talk about Tommy C. I want to look at this fumble thing because it's been an issue. And unless BC figures this out, none of these games are going to go well for the Eagles. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Hey, Boston College fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pooled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all the funds go to the specific players you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Cam Martinez. I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Cam the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets up your team's success. I mean, I had to pick Cam for this game, right? He had a sack. He had an interception. He had a fumble recovery. For a guy that no one was talking about, this was his game. He was my Roy Player of the Week. So don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebooks, and X at Roy_. Return on you for more investment. For more info, Roy, support the players, change the game. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, and we're talking about Tommy Castellanos. But before I do that, the basketball season is here. If you want great basketball coverage, check out the Locked On podcast. There's Locked On NBA, which if you just want NBA talk, it's the best. If you're like me and you're from the state of Massachusetts, Locked On Celtics with John Corrales, it cannot be beat. Excellent top tier Celtics coverage. Go check out Locked On Celtics on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, Tommy Castellanos has had his year has just been kind of topsy-turvy because going into the season, what was the big issue that we're all talking about? It was his ability to pass the ball. He had 15 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. He had a completion rate, I think, of like in the mid 50s. And he was one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in the ACC, but he could run the ball. He was explosive with his runs. He won BC games with his legs. You bring in Bill O'Brien, all the talk was going to be about him changing the ability to pass the ball. And to their credit, he's doing that. He's completed 66% of his passes. He's got a touchdown to interception ratio of like 14-4. He's much more accurate. He's, commanding the offense better when he's throwing the ball. Now, ironically, his running attack has completely disappeared. It showed back up against Virginia Tech. He ran for 70 plus yards, which was good. That's a good sign. But there was a big issue that many folks have been wondering about and has really been the killer these last 2 weeks, which are the fumbles, the turnovers. He had that obviously against Virginia. He had that fluky, weird ball that just came out of his hands and went into the hands of Jonas Sanker, who returned it for a touchdown and basically sealed that game. Against Virginia Tech, he had two that he lost, and he had one that he fell on. But these types of unforced errors, I mean, both of them are unforced. One of them came out of his hand. The other one was on a botched mesh snap. They got to be fixed because BC's offense, as Mitch Wolf on our show yesterday said, is so the measurement for mistakes is so small that doing something like this is catastrophic. It's a big issue for any team, but when your offense is struggling to consistently move the ball, when you're fumbling it deep in your own end zone, in deep in opponents' end zone territories, these types of turnovers are going to lose you games consistently. So you look at a game like coming up against Louisville, and what's the biggest factor in this game? You could argue it's the offensive line. It's going to be the defense stopping the run. I'd argue it's Tommy Castellanos not turning the ball over consistently. If he goes out there and does what he's done the last 2 weeks in terms of turnovers, BC's doomed. There's no way they're going to win this game. However, I'm still picking that BC's going to lose this game, and I'll give you my final predictions later. If he can hold on to the ball and work and not make those mental mistakes, there's a chance BC can hold on to this game. I've talked to many Louisville writers, and I'm like, yeah, I think BC's going to get. I'm saying to them, I'm like, yeah, BC. I don't think BC's going to have a really good game against Louisville. And they're like, I think this is going to be close. I don't think you're giving your team enough credit against what Louisville struggles with. So I must be missing it. And then I look at the odds on FanDuel, and the odds on FanDuel is 6.5. I mean, I was thinking 2 touchdowns for this game based on they were top 25 team. They barely just lost to Miami, who's a very good team. I'm wondering to myself, what am I missing? Fumbles can sometimes be a random occurrence. These are not random occurrences, though, many of the times. It's mistakes. And I think I'm hoping that these mistakes can be cleaned up. Now, folks have been asking me, how many fumbles does Tommy Castellanos have this year versus last year? And the answer is 7 for both. He had 7 total. Like, if you go to Pro Football Focus and look up his running stats, he had 7 fumbles last year. He has 7 fumbles this year. But obviously, there's still 5. And if they make a bowl, 6 games more. So he's at a very, very high clip now. And I wonder to myself, they've asked so much of him, and they ask a lot. Quarterback, I'm not going to say that he's any different. If you're a quarterback at any level, they're asking you to do a lot more than they're going to be asking a lot of other folks. But I wonder with the change of how he's thinking about things, the holding on to the ball and trying to throw it, reading defenses, doing all the things that good quarterbacks do, that these kind of little mental mistakes are just, piled up because of the pressure put on him. And maybe there are things that they can clean up. Maybe they're like with a little bit of like, Will Lying and Jonathan DiBiase working with him, just being like, okay, Tommy, you just got to chill here. This is what we got to do. You're good at this. You're going to be able to do that. Maybe they can fix that. That's the optimistic part of me. The other part of me is going, he's a gamer with small hands. And it's hard. It's different than him holding the ball than like, Brock Osweiler or Peyton Manning, both humongous men with like gigantic claws for hands that don't let go of the ball. I mean, he's at a very much of a disadvantage compared to those types of guys. But whatever the case, this is the key for every game going forward is, can Tommy Castellanos slow down on these turnovers? If they can hold on to the ball and drive, and yeah, there's going to be drives, they're just going to have to be punts, and that's okay. That's okay. But they can't take points off the boards with turnovers and give opponents points off of turnovers themselves, which they did both of those against Virginia Tech. If they do that every week, they're going to lose out. They're just going to lose out. There's no way you can overcome that. That is a massive shift. And I'm going to probably screw up what EPA does, but Mitch sent me the EPA for BC on those based off of turnovers from last week, and I think it was like a 14-point swing just on turnovers. So you take the turnovers out, and it was a 7-point game. You got to be able to fix this. You have to teach and fix ball security. Otherwise, you're going to lose out. So that is going to be key number one, and Tommy has got to figure this out because he's the biggest culprit. The weight is on him to figure out how to hold on to this football because it's costing Boston College games, and it's overshadowing a lot of the great stuff that he is building upon. But it all doesn't matter if you're just going to keep giving the ball to the other team. In a final segment, here's a couple names if you're not familiar with in terms of football, there's some recruiting names that are going to be on campus soon or have been on campus that I want to tell you about that could be big gets for BC moving forward. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Now, FanDuel is the place to go when you want to make your sports wager. And hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check on the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Now, I'm recording this on a Monday night, and every time that there's a football game, I love to go on FanDuel and I make myself a parlay. The best part about FanDuel and their parlays is they're seemingly always, it's not always, but they usually have like a boost bonus, which makes winning even sweeter. Well, for Monday night, we're recording on Monday night. So there's Arizona versus Los Angeles Chargers. And I did a 3-way parlay on this one. I have the Cardinals at plus 1.5. I think they're going to win at home. I got a feeling on that one. Marvin Harrison Jr. as an anytime touchdown scorer, and Justin Herbert with 200 plus yards. So far, no score. So that's pretty good. Justin Herbert's already at 100 yards after the first quarter. Feeling good about that one. And let's see if Marvin Harrison scores that touchdown. That's the best part of parlays. You can do whatever you want, see how it works. And on FanDuel, your imagination is your limits. So you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here, wrapping things up here. It's been a little while since I've given you some good old recruiting news. And if you're over at Eagle Insider, you know some of this stuff, but some of you don't. So I want to give you some updates. BC is currently at 23 commitments for the class of 2025. And if you're not aware of the new changes, there's no cap anymore on the amount of people a team can take in a year. So for those folks that have been, your OGs in terms of covering, understanding drafts, recruiting, it's no longer a 25-person cap. They can go over. And BC could be in the shape to do that right now. They're looking heavily at the defensive line. That seems to be the key for the last couple spots that they're looking at. Now, they just had on Toby Hosdrop of Maid Creek, Texas. He's a kid from London who is built like the Incredible Hulk, moves like the Flash, and hits like Lawrence Taylor. Like, this guy is crazy good. And there's a reason why he came out, like, he is a late bloomer, but is already up to a 4-star, has offers from Michigan, LSU, Florida State, USC, Tennessee, Missouri. I mean, tons of blue bloods. And you're going to say to yourself, AJ, no chance. They're not going to get him. I tell you this, he got like 30, I think, offers. And he's only taken like 6 official visits. And Boston College is one of them. So they're in the discussion. I'm not saying they're going to get him because that is some big time. And Texas A&M, that's the other big one because obviously he's down in Texas. This is going to be a tough pull. But, who knows? With Donovan Azaraku gone, Nato Ekpala potentially being gone, there's a chance that you could sell to him. This is what if I was coaching, this is what I would do. Hey, Toby, we have 2 open defensive line positions, and we just had a guy who was one of the top 5 in the country in sacks. That could be you, and you could start as a true freshman. There's your pitch right there. And you get all your Boston College and NIL stuff and throw that in as well. Seems pretty good, right? You're going to go to a school, like if you go and visit a school like Texas A&M, they're going to have 7 other guys that are just like this. But at BC, you're one of one. So that could be something that's fun. Who knows? I'm still skeptical it's going to happen. So if it doesn't, don't come back to me. AJ, you said, no. I'm just saying they've got, something happening there. And that maybe they could get some good luck there. They also had a pair of visitors that are coming up this week to check out BC. And these are 2 names that are kind of interesting. One's a defensive tackle and one is a defensive lineman. So Jaden Fry he is out of North Carolina, is currently committed to South Florida. He's an edge rusher. And he was also just offered by Virginia Tech. So when you hear the name, they was committed to South Florida. This is one of those like low-hanging fruit guys. He's been offered by Virginia Tech too. So there's interest there. He's going to be on campus coming up soon. And as well, Sterling Sanders, a defensive tackle committed to Georgia Southern, he's going to be taking his official visit this Friday. He's going to be here for the Louisville game. So as you can see, 3 different defensive linemen. That's including as well Cameron Brown, a defensive edge out of Norco, California, who was on an official visit back in June. So there's 4 different defensive linemen that BC could be looking at. Clearly, you guys have watched the games. They need more depth there. They need more talent there. So they're definitely trying to address that through recruiting. Those are 4 guys I think that you should be paying attention to. Now, on our show for Wednesday, we will be doing our preview of Louisville. We're getting, through that. We're going to continue talking about everything going on. We'll have our reactions to Bill O'Brien's Zoom press conference for the week. We'll see, hopefully, that there'll be some good stuff in there and everything else. If you have not checked out some of the other great Locked On shows, you need to right now. Check out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin's an excellent host. If you just want to hear some good college football talk, and sometimes after a tough BC week, you want to hear some other stuff, great show. Check out Locked On ACC. There's all sorts of great shows on our podcast network. If you just want to go check them out, or if you want to listen more to me, make sure you hit that subscribe and like button because I want to see you here for tomorrow's episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.